Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Card, the Halloween special. Now, I don't know about you, but I reckon that is the sexiest looking pumpkin head I have ever seen. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Well,
No. What are you doing, mate?
I'm just tuning into the Silver Shamrock broadcast to see what happens to this mask.
Yeah, I was going to say, that looks like a Clone Wars trooper helmet that you've just recently purchased. Is that right?
Either that or HR Puffin stuff.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. I love that. Now, guess what, fans? You're not going to believe this, right? Because I'm wearing this ridiculously stupid mask, I haven't got my glasses on, so I have to use the magnifying glass of truth just to read everything that's going on. So there you go. How tragic is that? Mr. Aaron, you're doing an absolutely fantastic job as always. Look at you. Come on. Now, this is where we get to say to you, get it off, sir. Get it off.
Take it off?
Right.
Well, before I get eaten by vermin from the SJ Trading Company, the vermination started.
Oh, my God. Look at that. That's a head only a mother could love. But fortunately, there is a mother who does actually love it. So there you go. According to yourself, your own store, we have some audio issues. Maybe because I'm speaking too loudly. That's certainly possible. Hopefully, if that's the case, can someone just let us know if we're okie dokie or not? But hopefully it's all going to be good for the rest of the show. So there you go. It's got your crew, Christy. Boo is indeed the right response. Mr. Aaron, how are you on this special Halloween night, tricking and treating and all the rest of it? And what's happening? You've been walking into too many parked cars, mate.
I think, no. I had the mask on too long and the vermin started to eat me. So, I had a really busy day. Been into the shop a little bit. Still no power in there. No trick-or-treaters tonight. How about you guys?
We're okay over here. Now, how's this one? This is the intelligence of human beings. I can't help myself, right? So, good on your own store said there was audio loop issues going on here. Then Rico said, oh, sorry, you had two windows open. Good on you, Rico. You're a legend, mate. What can I say? So, there you go. According to Carol, we look pretty. Now, if you're like me and you have to use the magnifying glass of truth, everything just looks blurry. So, I guess everything looks good. But in reality, yes, I tell you what, it's not the most prettiest thing of all time. But the good thing is it's our special Halloween show. For whatever reason, we're here to talk about Halloween-y, horror-y stuff. And that should be pretty cool, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon, old son?
Yeah, this is the first one. Will it be an annual sort of show, or will we vile? Will this be so vile no one will tune in again? We'll have to see how tonight goes. I tell you what, it's a packed night, and it's a bit different from our usual shows, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the fact that we're wearing this get-up is absolutely awesome, and you do wonder how we get ourselves into these things. What can I say? Which is very cool. Where do you want to start, Mr. Aaron? Because we're not following our normal pattern of programming and scheduling. So where do you want to kick things off? Do you want to have a bit of a natter, or do you just want to jump straight into it?
I think we can have a bit of a talk. I mean, how's everyone doing for Halloween? We've come out of lockdown. I don't know how many people have really embraced it this year. I kind of went out today and had a bit of a look around. There didn't seem to be as many people out as I thought there would be, and there's not that many houses decorated this year. I don't know if too many people want to celebrate Halloween after all we've been through for the last the last 2 years, really, hasn't it been?
You know, it's kind of funny because Halloween is supposed to be celebrating the whole horror thing. And, of course, the past few months have just been nothing but horror, and you can extend that to 2 years if you want. And, of course, the funny thing is some houses started decorating up their Halloween stuff early in the week. And, of course, we had the bloody storm. So half their decorations ended up like 4 or 5 suburbs away. So you could have woken up in the morning and go, hey, I've got skulls and spiders and freaking bits of pumpkin heads on my front lawn. Where do they come from? And it's like, way over west. So
I'm sure there's some really good decorations flying around in Bass Strait, isn't there? So, yeah, I think that's where a lot of it ended up. But I guess tonight's a Halloween episode and we're a collectible show. So we were going to kind of look at sort of Halloween toys and collectibles and where they come into being, I guess, because Halloween is one of those American holidays that's been adopted globally because everyone likes a bit of fun and a bit of horror. But it's one of those things that wasn't really merchandised much at all before sort of, I guess, the 80s, really. But there was one area where Halloween sort of merchandised and also produced a lot of really interesting stuff, and that was costumes for kids. When you were growing up, Dags, did you ever go trick-or-treating?
No, because it really wasn't such a big thing back in my day. It was only just in recent, 10 years or 15 years or something like that, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same with me. I never really went trick or treating growing up. I mean, you'd get a couple of people who did trick or treat, and you'd see all the American sort of Halloween specials. You know, the Married with Children Halloween special, or all the different shows that would do Halloween. But that was about the extent to what we celebrated Halloween. It wasn't a big thing growing up for us at all. I don't know anyone who's watching if they really got into Halloween. Now, probably, I guess, as you were saying, Dags, the last 15 years, people do, you know, dress their house for Halloween, and, you know, some people look forward to the trick-or-treaters, and a lot of kids really enjoy it because, like, what kid wouldn't want to go out and get Halloween candy from people? But yeah, it's sort of still a very young phenomenon here in Australia.
Well, based on that, I'll tell you who is apparently watching tonight. Good old Robert said that maybe the J&S company who are watching from China with love, which is absolutely awesome. And there's a classic line. And remember, I have to use the magnifying glass of truth here because I can't see a damn thing. Rico said that I've never looked better. That mask is definitely an improvement. Come and give us a kiss, Mr. Rico. I'll show you later. I'll be able to get a good loving if you want. So there you go. Very, very cool. Hang on, what? Mick said that he bought all the lollies for all these kids, but no one's turned out plays yet. So he's just like gorging them out on him by himself, which is very, very cool. And here we go. Look at this, Carol. Look at this. Carol's already leaving us. My God. Look at this. She's got bad internet. Everybody's anyway. It's the old bad internet problem, if you don't mind up. And she's just done the bolt. So there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for trying. Thanks for trying, Carol.
Hey.
Thanks for trying, Carol. Maybe next year.
Yeah, we're doing this again next year, are we? Oh my God, how painful is that? And even Daniel said it's an improvement for me. Yes, it brings out the color of my eyes. What can I say? Very, very cool. All right, so yes. So do you want to start having a bit of a look at what it is that you want to present for the time? Otherwise, people just look at our ugly heads.
Have a talk about what we're going to do for the show. So we're going to talk about horror movie toys and collectibles for a little bit. Then we're going to take a jaunt over to the Vile Villa to see who's visiting him on this Halloween night. And then we're going to end up with some real spooky stories of real haunted collectibles and supernatural stuff. So get some, what does everyone get? Pumpkin spice latte, pull up a seat, sit down and listen to me and Dags regale you with stories for the rest of the evening with a little help from the Vile.
It was very funny because when you said about spooky stories, I was like, well, I could talk about some of the relationships I've had with girls in the past, and there's some spooky stories there. But let's not talk about that, shall we? Let's move on to something a little bit more appropriate for this evening. So what do we go starting with, Mr. Aaron?
As I was saying earlier, you know, some of these almost make the Vile file, don't they? But I think they just came from a time when, like, merchandising was a little bit more innocent. And growing up, I didn't remember seeing a lot of horror toys around. And there weren't a lot of horror toys pre the 70s. You had maybe some of the Universal Monster sort of creatures, and you had some of the Aurora horror kits. But apart from that, there weren't really anything that celebrated horror like we do today. But one of the things that turned up in America every year were Halloween costumes. And these costumes, you know, were usually the cheap and nasty, you know, really flimsy mask that you crack when you put it on, it cracked, and it has the piece of elastic that, you know, dies almost straight away. And these are one of the traditions that they used to have in America year after year, and there are quite some interesting ones. I mean, there are some good ones, but Jaws, I mean, that's a pretty interesting costume for a kid to walk around with, which is basically a mask head of the shark and then sort of a smock, and you don't get the pants. You just walk around in your own pants. So that was one of the things I found interesting, the extent to how many different Halloween costumes you could get when you were sort of growing up in the 70s and 80s. Did you ever see any of these in Australia, mate?
Nah, not at all.
No.
No. And this is a bit of an in-joke. I've got to put it on screen only because I'm a bit of a... Tonight's a different night from most of the nights. So Michael's actually made a point about me about women with cloaks. That is an in-joke. Maybe I'll save that to maybe actually for this Friday night at your store. So we forgot to actually mention what's going on. Are you still having a reopening of the opening on Friday night. Just forgot to
We
mention
are. For those who haven't followed what happened, we were going to have a grand reopening on Friday night with pizza and drinks and sort of a get-together with as many people that wanted to come through. But then by act of God, we have had no power. And as far as I know, there is still no power in the store. So we opened yesterday through all of Saturday with no power. And then we had no power Sunday today. So fingers crossed we get it back for tomorrow. But we are going to do opening Mark II Friday night. So even though we'll be open Friday, we're going to have a open late with pizza and drinks for anyone who wants to come and turn up. And then we're going to have special giveaways over the weekend. Our friends at IMAX have given us a few double passes to give away. So that's worth coming in and grabbing something for, an IMAX double pass. I'm pretty sure everyone wants to see one of the movies that we haven't been able to watch at the moment. So that's what's happening in the store this week.
Yeah, we'll probably promote it a bit more on the Wednesday night show. So that's the main thing. So it's actually going to be, excuse me, very, very cool. And there was something I was going to say, and I forgot what it was. So that is not a drama at all. So we will move on. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But yes. Oh, that's right. So you're obviously not feeling your inner He-Man where you got, I have the power. Well, you actually got no power whatsoever. So
no, the power was gone. So yeah.
Anyway, back onto the costumes and stuff. What have we got?
So I was only really aware of these Halloween costumes because of Star Wars. And being a Star Wars collector, you'd collect a bit of everything. And you'd see all these pictures in guides and magazines of Star Wars costumes. And I only had a couple of these because I remember being singularly unimpressed when I got one. It's like getting something out of a show bag. You're kind of like, oh, that's really crap for what you're paying. And then because they weren't here, you generally had to get them from overseas. So they cost quite a bit. And before the internet, they were quite hard to track down. So the effort and the cost and the waiting to get them never seemed to actually live up to what would actually turn up. I do like, though, looking at some of the pictures of kids from the 70s and 80s there that I found online who did have these costumes when they were growing up. They now, even though they're a bit crap, they now are amazing sort of time capsules of history from that time when you didn't have to have a screen accurate stormtrooper costume to be allowed into the 501st to cosplay kind of thing. Back in the days when cosplay and dress up was still fun.
Yeah, it's a good example because what you said, because a lot of kids would put these on and they just think they were eating a bit from day one. And I know I would have been in that bit situation back then. So it's kind of funny when you put things into complete perspective. But hey, if kids wear them and they enjoy them and they think they're really cool, then that's the way to go. So good stuff.
Yeah. And here's some of the ones. I thought I'd highlight these because I don't know if you'd get away with some of them now where they come with different color paints that you sort of inflate the costume so you have a big monster sitting on your head and then you can paint your face to match the monster's body. So you've got green ones and yellow ones, but of course some of the black ones there are not probably going to go down too well in society these days. So these came from a much more innocent time, I think, where things like that hadn't become as politicized as they are these days.
Yep, totally agree. So you tell me there's a bit of because it's Halloween, a bit of a costume theme going on around here tonight. Is that right?
That's right. But before we look at costumes, what we were going to look at was Dags and our favourite horror toys. And what we've done, I don't know, Dags has picked 10 and I've picked 10. And Dags doesn't know what I've picked and I don't know what he's picked. So maybe some will be the same or maybe they'll be totally different. But we're going to do a bit of a countdown and discuss some of our favourite horror toys.
So I don't know what you've picked. You don't know what I've picked. So let's just start picking noses together. What can I say? So there you go. Very, very, very cool. And hang on, we've actually got, I don't even know who this is, but someone's joined us from Twitch. So yes, kids have a much bigger imagination than adults. So whoever this person is, welcome to the show. And hey, I totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for adults, sometimes it's a case of, feeling like an idiot or not being like an idiot or whatever else, whereas kids, they don't care either way. So it's very, very cool. So good stuff. There you go. And good old Cheese Noodle is back. Absolutely awesome. Very good. All right. So the top 10 horror toys. And we're not talking about action figures of Aaron and myself because they would be number one, no doubt. So this is Aaron's top 10. Is that right? Because I think you're up first, old son. Look at that. Talk about Aaron's picks. What do you reckon? Isn't he the cool looking dude standing there? I love it.
Thanks for that, Dags. So for my number 10, Are you going to put up the slide?
Yeah, give me a chance, mate. I'm just savouring the moment. We've got our top 10 special Halloween night. Anyway, go for it, dude.
I picked the Max FX Freddy Krueger doll. And I picked this because I love Freddy Krueger. He's a great character. He's a horror character. He's a comedy character as well. So he appeals to a broad range of people. If you're into the body gore, you get that. If you're into the James Bond one-liners, kind of, he's the horror maestro of that kind of comeback. But this is interesting because there weren't any horror dolls from horror movies or series before, not the sort of R-rated ones that Freddy was in. You might get your Frankensteins and your Draculas, but not movie specific. And this is interesting because he wasn't marketed as a Freddy Krueger doll. He was marketed as an FX doll. So anyone who kind of remembers the old Captain Actions, you got a standard action figure, and then you could buy different outfits to go on the figure. And this is the launch of the Mad FX version, which was Freddy Krueger. So you get Mad FX, who is a visual effects guy, and then you get all of the costumes for Freddy that you can put on Matt to make Freddy Krueger. So I kind of think it was a smart way to get an R-rated doll onto the market kind of thing, because I think a lot of toy companies wouldn't have done it. Down the bottom, you can see some of the other ones that were planned for the line. So they had the Alien and Frankenstein and Dracula and the Werewolf and the Mummy. Unfortunately, this toy didn't sell very well at all. So even though I think it is a fantastic toy, it didn't do very well. It's still a collectible toy that a lot of people are after, and I still think it's very, very cool. And it's just one of those sort of blips on the roadmap of toys, but I think it's worth mentioning in our top 10 horror toy countdown.
Phil has mentioned about how Robert Englund was telling us about a Doctor Who experience at Adelaide's Oz Comic Con. It was good that it's good to see that Robert was able to slip into Adelaide, Mr. Phil. So well done for that one. Yes, very, very, very cool. Hang on, this is a good one. Old Fart Gaming. That's a good name for a handle. I love that. So there you go. Hang on, this is a classic line from Colin. Is the blood on your face from customers who entered your store and couldn't spend any money because the internet was down?
No, what actually happened, I had spaghetti bolognese before we went live and I didn't wipe my face. Sorry.
Yeah, you're supposed to eat it, son. So there you go. All right, there we go. That was number 10. Number 9. Oh, look, something you sink your teeth into.
So number 9, we have the McFarlane Jaws box set. And again, this was a fantastic set because it's part of the Movie Maniacs line, and McFarlane were sort of in full steam right in the middle of the range releasing horror figures. So you had your Freddys and your Michaels and your Jasons and your Leatherfaces, but no one expected them to pull out Jaws. And I don't think Jaws to that point had really been merchandised to an adult collectible market. And so you had a couple of toys when it came out, and Jaws was one of the biggest movies of all time when it came out. It took I think Star Wars to beat Jaws, wasn't it? But but there hadn't really been merchandise. So when this came out, it was a surprise because no one expected it. And it is also a fantastic piece. Toy collectors like toys that display well in the box so they can keep them mint in box. And they also love toys that display really well out of the box. And this is one where the packaging of the ship looks like it's all broken up, like it was in the movie. But when you get it out and display it, you can put it all together and it looks like a better version of the ship. So it's an ingenious packaging idea, a good way to display it from a fantastic franchise. So that's why I chose it for number 9. What do you think of the Jaws set, Dags?
I wouldn't have put it in a horror thing, but I understand where you're coming from. So I thought, oh, okay, this has gone a little bit left field. I thought you might stick with your classic bad guys and whatever else. But yeah, as an actual set, though, yeah, I do agree. It looks pretty groovy. Speaking of something that's actually pretty groovy, good old Cheese Noodle said there's actually 3 people watching us on Twitch, and that is actually a new record, just like how the fact that Aaron looks more attractive now than he does in any of the other shows. So we're breaking records everywhere here, which is kind of cool. So what do you reckon?
Fantastic. Welcome everyone on Twitch. We're twitching.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, let's move on.
Number 9 is another one that's maybe not as well recognized as a lot of the other horror action figure that have been produced, but this is Toxie from the Toxic Avenger and from the Trauma series. And this one I've picked just because it is actually a really amazing action figure, right down to the detail on the figure. The toxic waste look like it glows on the mop. It does come with the mop. It comes with a display stand. It's not one, again, that you might think straight away is one of the best horror figures ever, but it's really, really fantastic. And when you look at it, you can't really fault it. It even comes with him in his toxic waste damaged tutu. And what other action figure can say that?
Yeah, well, once again, I wouldn't, because he's actually like a bit of an anti-hero, I wouldn't have classed this as a horror-related thing. But hey, I'm certainly happy to have it there, and that looks really good, dude. So well done. Very, very cool.
And then I guess we get into the real horror classics. And of course, the original Halloween by John Carpenter is probably one of the most iconic horror movies ever. It has everything. It's got Jamie Lee Curtis and babysitters. It's got a serial killer stalker with a knife who has almost supernatural-like powers. It's got Dr. Loomis, who is still pretty sane in this one, who is obsessed with Michael and studying him his whole life. It's got ravaging and killing and maiming through the whole of the movie on Halloween night, and a classic name, Halloween, which means it has become synonymous every year with putting it on and rewatching, and it really does stand up to this day for me. I do have to say, I put this on for my son and watched it, and he was kind of like, some of this is a bit funny, isn't it? Because he's used to the more CG, but I like the practical effects. I think the cinematography is amazing. And so what I love about this is there have been many, many figures of Michael Myers, but this one is a diorama, and you get the Michael Myers porch from the house where he lives and seems to always return to. You've got Michael himself, and you've got Dr. Loomis. So it's another one of those sets you can see. You can leave as a set, and it looks fantastic just sitting in the box unopened, but then you can open it up and it expands bigger to what the box allows it to, so it's an even better display when you take it out of the box. So this is why Halloween is the box set is one of my favorite horror toys of all time.
Very, very good. And you are right, it did start an entire institution of how movies were made and how bad guys suddenly become fan favorites and all this sort of thing. So yeah, no, well done, dude. So very, very cool.
And here we go. This is one of those. This is one of those sets where the figures aren't horror figures at all. They're actually little kids. But what is horrific is what happens to the kids, and that's why I chose the mask from Halloween 3 as my costume today, because I do think out of all of the horror movies, maybe Halloween 3 has one of the evilest plans ever to kill all the kids on Halloween by supernaturally melting their faces and turning them into snakes and bugs and vermin. And so just that concept is incredibly terrifying. And it's hard to believe that Halloween 3 bombed. Well, it didn't really bomb, but it didn't do amazingly well when it came out. And I think that is because everyone expected a slasher movie. And even though this is a good horror movie, it wasn't what people expected. So when they went in to see a slasher movie with Michael Myers and they got a supernatural horror about killing kids through Halloween masks, it disappointed a lot of people. A lot of people now, with years and years to think about it, have reassessed their views on Halloween. This set is amazing. You get the 3 kids which are wearing the 3 masks from Halloween, the witch, the jack-o'-lantern, and the skeleton. You get a whole lot of extras like the TV set with the silver shamrock ad. You get the replaceable heads, so you've got the activated masks with all the nasty creepy crawlies coming out and eating the children. And then you get the children in Halloween costumes, and some of them are in real fabric costumes. So they look quite expensive for that Halloween set. So that's an amazing set of figures. And although it's not a horror figure, one of the most horrific subjects we would touch on tonight, which is like killing children.
So with that in mind, Rico said, little kids are horrific. Yeah, absolutely. Truer words were never spoken, as they say, which is very, very, very cool. So there we go. Very good. Number 5, halfway over there.
Number 5, I've chosen the Pinhead model kit that was released in the mid to late 80s. And again, I've chosen this one not because it's like my favorite horror piece ever. It's because it was kind of a groundbreaking piece where Screamin' Models decided they were going to full on release a horror figure into the market and see how it went. And they had already released a couple of figures before this. They'd released like a Mars Attacks kit and a couple of other sort of that touch on horror. But this one was the first one from, Clive Barker's Hellraiser that was a full-on horror figure. And what happened, they released it into the market and it did so amazingly well, they leaned into horror even more. So they released more of the Cenobites from Hellraiser. They released different horror, Freddy, not Freddy, but they released a Jason, and then they went into Star Wars because they'd obviously made enough off of the horror franchise that they could go into sort of the big hitters and get the Star Wars franchise. Now the kit is amazing, but the thing with kits, they're only as good as the people who put them together. So if you collect horror kits and you don't have the skill, it's probably better to find one that's already been assembled and that you can look at and judge if you like it or not. If you like a bit of a challenge yourself, it isn't a huge kit. It doesn't come in tons of pieces. There's only about 7 or 8 pieces for the whole kit, but the challenge there is painting it accurately and making it look amazing. So another one of those historical toys that was a bit of a U-turn for the industry, where they realized they could do this stuff and make a profit out of it and expand on the market.
Yeah, I can't help. When I look at Pinhead, you just want to get some, was it red cotton and just make little string patterns on his head or something like that. That'd be kind of funny, eh? So much like they did in the X-Files, which we discussed last week. And actually someone said that they're chucking out, I've lost it because I have to use my bloody thing. Someone said, oh, here we go. Cheese Noodle said, yeah, X-Files t-shirts being chucked out for $1. So there you go. Here's a nice little segue. Number 4, go for it, Mr. Aaron.
Now, I wondered what you'd think of this because I thought you'd say Mars Attacks is not horror at all. And, of course, the movie version that we got wasn't. But you've got to remember the cards that they were based on from the 60s were actually almost adult, horrific horror cards, and it was horror science fiction. You had cards with dogs being disintegrated and kids being killed. Like you'd have the Martians taking sadistic glee in killing people's boyfriends and girlfriends. And it wasn't off screen. It was actually people melting and half of them melting in half and sort of blood and guts and everything. So Mars Attacks were one of those series of cards that parents would have hated when the kids sort of brought them home and loved them. There were scenes of giant insects skewering and impaling people, and of different monsters and aliens from Mars being unleashed on Earth. So even though this Martian ambassador is based on the Mars Attacks movie, I'm sort of taking the tradition of horror sci-fi that it came from to include this. And it's number 4 in my top 10 because it is an absolutely amazing figure. The colors on Mars Attacks aliens, if you look at them, the detail and the hand painting on every single one would have taken, more than, your normal paint application on a production line. So that's why I think it's great. And also the clothes that they've put on them, when you scale down material, it is very hard to create the same kind of look because, if you have a piece of material and you use the same material on something 1/20th the size, it doesn't react the same. It's tighter. And what they managed to do was find material and accessories that were accurate and portrayed the scaled down version of the figures. So they are almost probably like the stop motion figures that they used in the Tim Burton movie. So they are a fantastic figure and one of my favorite hot toys. So if you get a chance to ever own one of those and you like Mars Attacks, that's a no-brainer.
Clearly, our entire audience has fallen asleep because I've not heard one ack from anybody. So there you go. Normally people just type it up straight away, but well, they must be all watching something else, so I get that. So probably somebody else's live stream. So there you go. But number 3, we're into the top 3, kiddies. Here we go. Ready for it? Oh,
so number 3,
this is an horror story.
Maybe
What's
not the most horrific series, but V. And the V alien doll is one of my favorite, I would say, horror figures, because I tell you what, when I first watched V, they didn't tell you if the visitors were good or not. And for the first couple of hours, there was sort of a debate whether they were going to turn out good or turn out bad. And I remember before they revealed that they were evil at school playground, sort of going, oh no, they're going to be bad. Oh no, they're probably good. They're probably bad. And then the thing that did it was when Diana ate a hamster or a mouse, and everyone was like, okay, That's
Yeah.
not the good aliens that we think they are. And it wasn't long after that they ripped their faces off, and it was like the conspiracy type lizard person that was the aliens all along, much like the reveal at the end of Scooby-Doo. But this way is the reverse, where somehow a massive giant reptile head is inside a little tiny human head. And that's how it was with the toy. And that's what makes the toy impressive. They did do the thing where there is the reveal. There is the alien inside, and you've got the little human head that you can put over the top to do the reveal. And even though V isn't really a horror series, that scene is embedded in my memory as quite horrific and quite shocking when I originally saw it as a child. Do you remember watching that live, Dags?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The thing I found funny is that the visitors lizards thing, they've got bumps and things all over their head, right? As you can sort of see here, and yet when they put the human skin on, it just flattens it out completely. So how they do that is anybody's guess. Now this is a good one from Colin. If you're looking for a horror series, you can't go past Galactic or 980. So if you put in Dr. Z as number one, mate, you're going to be like the biggest hit of all time. So there you go. Very, very cool. Yes. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I wouldn't have put this in the horror thing. So I would never have guessed this in a million years. But anyway, it's your top three, which is very, very cool, which means there's only two to go. And look at this. Now, this is horror. Yes.
So this is one of my favorite toys from all time. It is the Movie Maniacs thing. They did a couple of different things, and they're all amazing. And I was really tempted to put them all together and say just the thing, that this is the best one out of the three or four that they have done, in my opinion. And this is because you get two in the same set. You get the little spider head one, and you get the one that bursts out on the table and sort of grows out and goes everywhere. And what's amazing about this is, I've talked about this before, when you do an alien or a monster, it's always look better than a human, because you can get away with not having as accurate as the likeness. But this is so spot on to the thing. You can see pictures of this online, and this is only a 5-inch toy, and they look as good as the shots in in the movie to me. The ones with the little spider at the bottom coming out from under the drawers, like it really could almost be a still from the movie. And the only thing that I would say makes this toy not fantastic is it is quite fragile. So you can display it, and it has a little bit of articulation, but if it falls over, the thing is going to splinter, because the arms are quite brittle and the pieces have gone quite brittle. And it's the same with the little spider as well, that you move it too much and the legs just break off the body, because it is become quite brittle. But if you want that level of accuracy, I guess you've got to have sort of the thinness and that level of detail in it. So the Thing is a fantastic toy and one of my favorite horror toys ever produced. What do you think of the Thing, Dags?
Yeah, love it. Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, I'll be discussing probably the Thing a bit later on. So yeah, so that sort of works for me. There's a great comment from Rico who says, the Thing, poor lost alien attacked vicious humans for no reason. Of course there's a reason. He was having a nice little snooze in the eyes, and they wake him up and thought him out. It's like, mate, you'd be pretty shitty too if they did that to you. So there you go. But very, very cool. All right, so that actually brings us to number one. So if people out there think they know what number one might be, and I certainly don't know, it can be very, very fascinating. What is number one on Aaron's list of horror toys? Oh, my goodness, it has got to be absolutely, yes, of course, a xenomorph.
So the Kenner Alien, and it's one of those I couldn't not use as number one. It is a big black piece of plastic that is terrifying in appearance. As a kid, I think I've told this story before, I saw it in the shops. I would have probably only been about preschool or 4 or 5 years old, and I saw it in Venture, and to me, there seemed to be a pile of them to the roof. It was probably because I was so small and I just looked up and saw Alien as far as I could see. And it was on special because it didn't sell very well here, and it was $2.99, which was, I knew was in my price range, because I could usually con my parents to get a Star Wars figure, which was $2.99. And this was, this was gonna eat all my Star Wars figures. Now, I hadn't seen the movie Alien, but I just loved the look of it. I loved the design. I loved it was sort of a horror toy. I've always been someone that liked to be scared, even though I do get scared, but I would like to get scared. And so I said to my mum, can I have that? And she took one look at it and she said, that horrible thing is never coming back to our house. And then I understood why they sold so poorly, because at the time there were no horror toys for kids. And that was not going to get past most parents at the time. Even though it was incredibly cheap, I'm pretty sure most of them never got sold. And I've heard that they got landfilled in Australia because no one wanted them. So that's why those toys are so hard to get today. And you can imagine poor Kenner, they had a hit with Star Wars, and then this other sci-fi movie comes out, Alien, and the creature design is absolutely amazing. They put a lot of work into making an accurate toy of it. It has glow-in-the-dark components for the skull. It has the moving jaw and the inner mouth. It has chrome parts, and it is fully articulated, as in it has ball joints on the arms. So a lot better than a lot of toys at the day, and it bombed. No one bought the thing.
Well, I'll tell you one person who bought it, and that was Spankin. So there you go. So it's good to see that he was able to sort of grab one of those when he did. And, of course, you know, we all know that when Spankin grabs something, he really grabs it. There we go.
Oh, yes. So
goodness gracious me.
Do
So
you
there
think
you go.
that's
Had to get one in there somewhere. So get old Spankin grabbing his bone. Yay, team. Yes, very, very cool. I agree with you, dude. Yes, that certainly deserves to be number one. And is very spectacular. So well done. Anything further you want to add about your top 10 before we move on?
No, just I wish I'd bought a couple of the Aliens before, because now Spankin's good that he's got one. They have absolutely skyrocketed in value. You used to pick one up for under $500 boxed, and now, you know, they're getting to $2,500. So if you see one for a good price, pick it up.
Very, very cool. All right, so that brings me to mine now. Obviously, I'm not a toy expert. I'm not into this sort of stuff at all. I'm just going to pick out and show you things that I thought were kind of groovy. I don't know the history of who made them, what they were worth, or anything. Aaron might know the answer, but know more about these things than I do. And, of course, horror is not my forte. But with that in mind, let me just slip into my top 10, and we'll see how we go. These are the things that appeal to me the most. So we'll give it a shot. So number 10, I've actually forgotten what my list was, so this is going to be exciting for me too. So number 10, of course, is a Triffid from Day of the Triffids. I don't even know if this is actually a toy or a model or something that someone's created. But, yeah, you could class this as a bit of a horror toy. What do you reckon? Or a horror thing, Mr. Aaron? Because
that is absolutely amazing. That's from the BBC version of Day of the Triffids. I do think that is a custom or a garage kit. I have seen a couple of Triffids around, but I don't think that version has ever been officially released. But that is an amazing toy. And yeah, it is a horror for sure. Who would want to be blinded by a Triffid skin and then slowly digested by a plant? No, thank you.
There you go. At least you won't have to water it, that's for sure. So there you go. And of course, you could add Audrey, the first Audrey from the Little Shop of Horrors, but
yes,
that kind of just didn't cut the mustard, as it were. So I had to sort of like cut off some dead wood, and that was it. Very good. All right. So, speaking of the which, I forgot what I put in the list. So maybe the first Audrey sucked, but Audrey 2, who was a mean green mother from outer space, was quite good. Now, I don't know what this is either. So, but I like the Maxwell House coffee. There's a bit of an in-joke for you. But
yes.
There you go. What do you reckon?
Maxwell Smart Coffee. No, Audrey 2 is a fantastic horror icon. From, there's the two versions of the movie. There's the one with Jack Nicholson, and then there's the one with Rick Moranis, which is the musical, which I think everyone knows a lot better. That is a piece that has been available recently. So these replicas of Audrey 2 came up. I don't know if they're official, in that they sort of turned up on those eBay sales, get one for, not eBay, Facebook sales, get one for Halloween, that usually we would buy for Greg King. So I would have probably liked to buy one and see what turned up, but it does look fantastic. It does look screen accurate, like the Jim Henson puppet. And if it turned up and looked like that, you'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you?
Indeed. I love this. Yeah. Feed me, Seymour. Absolutely. And I like this. I know that I'm going places in my list when good old Greg King says it's crinoid approved. So absolutely love it. So yes, it was very, very cool. And of course, the story with the original movie is it was made like 2 days and 1 night, or 1 night and 2 days, or something like that. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. All right, so that's my number 9. As I said, I just like it. I have no idea what it is, but we'll move on. So number 8. Once again, I can't even remember what I put in this. It is now a classic sci-fi movie from the 50s called Fiend Without a Face. And I don't know what this is, as in like whether it's a toy, a model, a knockoff, 3D print, whatever. But in the movie, have you ever seen Fiend Without a Face?
I've seen the movie. I've never seen that piece before, so I don't know what corners of the internet you're inhabiting. So,
The dark parts. So for those who don't know, what it is these are brains with the vertebrae still attached, and they're actually invisible, right? And they go around sucking the life out of dudes, as you can see in that shot just there. And at some point in the movie, they enact some kind of wizardy spell or whatever, and they all become visible. So these brains are flying around the room with these vertebrae attaching to people and killing them. And of course, in the movie, when they shoot the brains, it's not a case of they just go doink. There's actually all this blood pissing out. It's black and white blood, right? Brain matter, if you want. It's just pissing out the top of it. It's absolutely awesome. So one of my top sort of favorite sci-fi movies of the 50s. So Fiend Without a Face. If William Wellborn was watching, chances are he'd probably have it on DVD just like I do. So yes, very, very cool. So that was my number 8, which I thought was kind of groovy. Number 7, back to the Thing. Now, the reason why I picked this particular item is because in the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, you've got a dog that's been inherited by the Thing or inhabited by the Thing, and of course, its whole head splits open and it sort of peels itself apart. And I thought the fact that they made that as a toy, I thought, yeah, that's just classy stuff, isn't it? It's like, hey, mummy, can I find one of those at the pound? What do you reckon, dude?
well, when I was saying I was choosing the Thing as my number 2, I was looking at this and there is another Thing toy, and I was going to bunch them all together, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cheating. But I do love this toy. This is by Soda Toys. It is a really hard box set to find because it's so desirable. It is one of those things where it probably actually looks better in the box, because when you take it out and you don't have sort of the kennel behind it, it is just you've got McCready and a couple of the dogs on the ground, but you can't really see the detail there. The detail there is fantastic because you've got the Thing and then you've got all like the root network tentacles coming out of it, and they're sort of growing into the dogs and feeding and converting them. So it is a fantastic horror toy. I totally approve of that one. That's a fantastic box set.
Not just approved, but crinoid approved. And I agree with you, Michael. It's totally inappropriate, and absolutely, totally agree with you. So those dogs in that movie, they had a hard day at the office. What can I say? So, but yeah, the fact someone said, "Oh, let's make a toy out of it. That'd be awesome. The kids are going to love it." And yeah, anyway. All right. So number 6, we're still sticking with the Thing. Now, this is just the head. Now, here's a question for you. What was the name of the character? Whose head it is?
Whose head was that? I should know, but I'm on the spot. I can't remember.
No, that's all right. Some people are going to say it's Blair, but it's not Blair. It's actually Norris. So Norris is the guy on the table. When Blair puts the paddles on him, they go through and the Thing clamps shut, and then the head sort of separates, goes off to a corner, and that's where the spider thing appears. Now, I know you had this in one of your pictures, but I just highlighted this by itself because I thought the idea of having a dude's head with spider legs sticking out of it. Imagine giving that to your girlfriend or something, saying, "Hey, honey, I think of you when I look at this."
Well, I probably wouldn't say that to any girl, but that is a different one from the one I picked. That one I think is the 1-to-1 scale prop. So you can get a prop replica of the head, and that is it, I think.
Well, what if the girlfriend gave it to the boyfriend and said, "Hey, honey, this is for you. We always wanted to give you a little head." Anyway, so and that's it. And that yeah. So in terms of inappropriate toys and a totally off-putting, but I reckon it's grouse. Yeah, I think it's very, very cool, and it's a great scene in the film. And if you know the quote from the movie, which we're not going to quote here because it has some swearing in it, that's exactly what you'd say if someone gave this to you. You got to be effing kidding. So very, very cool. Anyway, but that's the Norris character for those who did not know. All right, number 5. Now this, I don't know. I think this might be a custom job. But I actually thought it was fantastic. So it's the Plan 9 from Outer Space characters. A little bit of everyone. You've even got the Bela Lugosi dude over here with the cloak in front of the face. I think these are customs that someone has made. You've even got a Criswell way over here, which I thought was really cool. And I just looked at that, and the fact that they're painted in black and white, to mimic the movie. Yes. I loved it. What do you reckon of these? You ever seen this sort of thing before?
I haven't seen those. I do think they're custom ones. There's not a lot of merchandise from Plan 9 from Outer Space. I don't know if I'd say it was horror, but I do understand why you pick it, because it has it kind of is bad on all genres, really, isn't it? It's so bad. It's good.
Hang on. Of course it's horror, because they're zombies, dude. So they're bringing the dead back to life. You know, that's not like a family-friendly movie. That's like dead dudes, mate. So that's the reason why I included it. So, yeah. I mean, these two guys here, Vampire and the other dude, I mean, they're dead puppies, mate. So, yes.
True. So, they're a fantastic set of customs, and I guess anyone who loves the movie would be really happy to have them in their collection.
Yeah, I think the only thing they've ever marketed is this flying saucer. So that's actually about the only thing I think and that's even in that is in limited numbers. So there you go. And for those who are wondering why I've got I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see a damn thing. So I have to use the magnifying glass of truth for those who didn't see what was going on earlier. Very cool. All right, number 4. Now I reckon this is awesome. It's the id monster from Forbidden Planet. I believe this is a model or something you can purchase. And I saw that and I go, oh, that is grouse. So what do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron? Good for the store?
That is fantastic. I've never seen that before. I have seen one id monster which was pretty fantastic, and it was a custom one. And what someone had done was they had made it themselves out of red copper wire. So it was see-through and you could just see the edges to it. But when you see the movie, you don't really get a really good idea of exactly what it looks like because it's so brief and it's so, special effects. So that's one of those amazing pieces that I've never seen before.
And for those who've ever seen the TV version of Forbidden Planet, they actually cut this sequence out of the movie because it was too scary. A couple of comments here, which is great. Rico said it's at Larry's friend, so obviously from the store, which is kind of funny. Phil said, and I'll tell you what, he got a cheap copy of Plan 9 from Outer Space. I'll tell you what, Phil, I was able to slip into JB Hi-Fi or whatever it was, and it was my first ever DVD purchase of all. So Plan 9 from Outer Space. So I started with the best, if you will, and it was only upwards from there, which is kind of cool. And there was actually, hang on, someone said, Cheese Noodle said it looks like a great-looking gummy. Well, it does, doesn't it? Imagine like pulling the legs off this thing. What do you reckon?
Well, it's like that episode of The Simpsons with the gummy DeMilo. You could have all these gummies from different movies and put them, how they sell different shaped gummies? They should do a selection of horror gummies or something. I think they'd actually do pretty well.
Yeah, so an id monster gummy. And I never realised the id monster had no arms. I always, I just didn't even twig on that until I saw this. Anyway, so that's number 4 for me. So I'm down to my top 3. So, because I love my sci-fi movies and my classics, the action figure of The Thing from Another World, the 1950s version. Now, I don't know if this is a real one or not. You probably know that.
I actually don't know on that one. It looks real, but I haven't seen it before. And I do look for The Thing stuff because I love The Thing as well, even the original version. And I haven't seen that one before. But it is one of those cool movies. And I think in the original Thing, it was a vegetable, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was vegetable based. Yeah, that's right.
So I've never seen that one before. It is a pretty cool thing. It is a really nice horror figure. It's got a bit of the Frankensteins about it, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, Desi Arnaz, if I Junior, I think played the character, and then people said it was a shame it was actually just a dude in a costume, but for what it was meant to be at the time, it worked. And I like this comment from Rico. Yes, it looks like an alien from the Twilight Zone. So probably very similar actually. So but yes. Very, very cool.
Well, it was.
Sorry, go on.
Lucille Ball really thought Desi Arnaz Jr. was a horror, didn't she? Well, no, Desi Arnaz.
Yeah, very, very good. My second one, if I'm not mistaken, is not actually a toy because I couldn't think of what I liked at number 2. So I've said it's actually an item, but I love the fact you can't get anything for the Blob, right? And I saw this box, a Happy McMeal, that's bad, McMeal thing from McDonald's, and it's celebrating the Blob. I thought, how good is that? Now, some people will probably argue that some of McDonald's foods are kind of blob-like because they do horrible things to your internal organs. But that is grouse. I just thought, that's it. Oh, I'd love to have one of those. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that there is actually a series of those. I think they're custom made. I don't think they're official, but you could get the Blob and the stuff and a couple of other things, and it'd be quite a good set, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I loved it. I saw it because I thought, I wonder if anybody's made anything Blob-related, whether it be the original or the remake, and there was just nothing. But when I saw this, I thought, I've got to chuck this in. So that's my number 2. That really pushed my buttons. And believe me, my buttons needed to be pushed. All right, so down to my top number 1. What would be my number 1 item in terms of horror toys and all the rest of it? It would have to obviously be good old Dracula from 1931, this particular statue. There's a few statues, but I particularly like this one. What do you reckon?
That is an absolutely fantastic statue. During my time in working in collectible shops, I've had that one a couple of times. It comes in colour and it comes in black and white as well. They're very, very hard to get these days. A lot of people are after them. That one has a fantastic likeness of Bela Lugosi. It's one of those classic, iconic pieces that any horror fan would love to have in their collection, I think.
Yeah, I specifically picked the one that was black and white because you wouldn't go for a colour one because it was never in colour. So... and that's why there was some with the red in the lining of the cape and all the rest. And I said, nah, got to go traditional the whole way. So I looked at that and it was sort of fantastic. But I've actually got, believe it or not, a bonus item. So I didn't know this does not exist. And this is my way of saying, if they were going to produce a horror toy or a toy from a horror movie / sci-fi movie, they should have produced this. Now, if Colin Parkinson's watching this, he'll get this straight away, right? So this is actually from the movie Life Force. And what they should have done is marketed or produced that action figure of the woman there who's a vampire, right? And the reason why they should have done that, because this is the only time in the entire movie she's actually wearing clothing. Throughout the entire film, she's stark naked, doesn't say a word. And I thought, if you were like me and I was like 18, 19 when the movie came out, I was like, mate, he's a perfect woman. So how good is that? And I've got a picture way down here, which I've deliberately made small, just not to break any laws, of what she looked like in the film. So they should have marketed an action figure of hers. So what do you reckon? You would have seen Life Force and been a young kid at the time?
Yes, Life Force is a fantastic movie. It was made by Toby Hooper, who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, which is another, well, they're both fantastic horror movies. Out of his 3 horror movies, that one probably did the least well. I think it's a great movie. There's 2 versions of it. The director's cut, which goes for about 20 minutes longer, is a much, much better version if you can track it down, and has more music in it too. So Life Force is a fantastic movie, and I would buy a Life Force figure if they made a doll of her.
I like this one from Michael. He says, I'm a pervert. It's like, mate, when you see a naked chick in a science fiction movie and you're a teenager and she doesn't say a single word, it's like, yeah, I'm happy to be a pervert. It's the only reason why I watched it. So, or watched it again. So, there you go. Very, very good. So, yeah, I think that's it. The Blob, okay, what did Steve McQueen do? He's actually known Stephen McQueen through that. So, there you go. So, that's our top 10 horror picks, horror toys. I'm sure some people out there got their own thoughts and views about all that. But what do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
I was still thinking of Life Force. Is Patrick Stewart in that as well, I think?
Yes, he was actually. Yes. Yeah, it was an English cast, so there was a few English dudes in it. So
if you can track it down, it's worth a watch. I haven't watched it.
And if you need to fast forward through all the talking bits, by all means, go ahead. So, yes, very, 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 very cool. So, there you go. Yes, I heard a war at the VHS tape. Well, you can only pause the screen on certain spots. But anyway, I move on. So, so what's up next there, Mr. Aaron? I think we're getting to something the very exciting part of the show. What do you reckon?
Well, I think all the kids are in bed, so it's ready for one of our favourites to make an appearance, and that is, of course, the Vial. And he has been, usually he's here with us, but tonight he's at the Vial Villa, which is his home on Mustafa, because he wanted to stay home with Bubba Frick when all the trick-or-treaters arrived to give them candy. So he is sending us live pictures of trick-or-treaters that are turning up at his house. And of course, he's sending us the ones that he thinks are the best and the worst costumes. And when we say Lord Vile likes the best, that usually means the worst, and the worst ones will probably, what he thinks are the worst, are probably going to be quite good. So there he is on one of the landings of his Vile Villa with Babu Frick. And you know what he's done? He's bought special candy for the evening. After last week's episode, he got online and tracked down all of the Hannah Montana concert candy he could, because he knew he would be able to give that out tonight and really impress all the trick-or-treaters. So what he did, he made sure he tried to get all the skin color and purple ones that he could find, because obviously those ones look the best. And he's got like a entire Halloween's night supply to give out to anyone who's foolish enough to ring the door of the Vile Villa. So without further ado, maybe we should cross over to him and see who is daring to knock his door and be critiqued by the Vile.
Absolutely love it. All right, we're off and running. Who have we got here?
Well, this is actually the standard of trick-or-treaters that he were his favourite in the past. That's actually Bacon Hitler, Gary Glitter, and the Not So Flash. So that's the benchmark of people that he is hoping turn up on his doorstep tonight. I'm particularly impressed with all of those, but I'm sure the standard is only going to go up or down, depending on how you look at this segment. So let's see. First, I think we've got a picture of the door that people have to get through to find the Vile.
I like how you said the standard's not going to go up, it's going to go down, just like the guy in the middle picture. So there you go. All right, let's have a look. What do we got? Oh, we got a door.
So here's the door to the Vile Villa that trick-or-treaters have to knock to get in. And I've just got to say, if I saw a door like that on Halloween, I don't know how likely I would be to try and get to see what was on the other side. But let's persevere and see how we go.
All right, we've got the doors. So what door do we open first, Mr. Aaron?
Well, I'll leave that up to you, Dags. It could be good or it could be bad, or who knows. Let's go for it.
Yeah, and speaking of women that you saw in the movie Life Force, there's this.
Well, so the first trick-or-treaters of the night not really impressed the Vile. This is Bert and Ernie, but it's more of I guess, a sexualized, sexy Bert and Ernie what has turned up, and he is not going to give anyone who comes along looking that good any candy at all. So who is through the other door? Now this is the level that we were expecting, the sort of nightmare fuel version of Bert and Ernie that the Vile really appreciates. So this is the Bert and Ernie, this is the level of trick-or-treaters that we're hoping we will see more of, and that the Vile really likes to get knocking at his door on Halloween. So let's close those doors and see who the next batch of trick-or-treaters are, Dags.
There we go.
Well, we've got a Mystique from X-Men, and I've got to say that's actually not impressing the Vile, because it actually looks like Mystique from the X-Men. If we're going to have a Mystique from the X-Men, we really want someone who shows a bit more Vile potential, I guess you would say. So let's open the other door and see who we've got there.
There we go.
So there we go. Now this is the level of I've got to say, he's really got some mystique happening there, hasn't he? So this is the level of I guess effort that the Vile really loves someone puts into a costume, where you've got the blue body paint, the red hair, almost all the bodies completed in blue, and the extra tight pair of blue Speedos really works too, doesn't it, on that one?
I don't know about you, but I think I can't tell them apart. So what's the deal with this dude back here taking a photograph of the back of this guy? What's he?
Well,
what he's zooming in on, do you reckon?
He's obviously putting that in the spank bank for later, isn't he?
Oh, love it. Look at this. Hang on. On blue Bubba. Oh God. Yeah. Oh, that's a bit harsh, Rico. It's Mystique transforming into the blob. Oh, that's not right at all. Oh, good. Jeepers creepers. Love it. All right. So what's next, Mr. Aaron?
Well, let's see what the Vile has sent up for us next. I think. Oh, well, look, it's the Vile's back door. He's where he keeps his vehicles. So obviously, we're going to get like something huge, aren't we? Let's roll up the roller door and see what the Vile has sent this time.
Maybe that's what this dude is doing, taking a photograph of the back door. Anyway, where we got through the roller door? It's this little kidlets.
Oh. Well, that's actually pretty cute. I'm sure no one would think that's Vile at all. So I don't know why the Vile is sending us pictures of little kids. Like, I guess the Vile is giving us a message that you can embarrass your kids by putting them in clothes like this, and he will send a more appropriate picture of how you can dress your kids. So without further ado, let's look up the Vile's back door one more time and see what's coming through this time.
That sounds so wrong.
Now this is much better. Like here we've got like it looks on the left a little toddler dressed as a chicken, but with a chest burster coming out, and has that accurate I've just been violated look on their face as well, which sort of sets it off. And then nothing says caring parent more than dressing your kid as a packet of cigarettes as you go out trick-or-treating. So there's two more Vile children ideas that I think we can use in Halloween that are much better than those cute store-bought things.
You know what happened? You get someone who'd complain about the one on the right-hand side to go, hey, you're a bad parent. You don't dress your kid up like that. Of course, it's got to be Winfield, not Marlboro. Give him some Winnie Blues. So, yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh, we've got a host of turtles here. Now, obviously the vial has got a few different turtles coming through, but the ones he likes the best are not the ones that wear any costumes. It's just the body paint version of the turtles. And I tell you, what I love about those is the guys on the right, how I don't think they put body paint on their shorts, but it just looks like they've sweated and it's just rubbed off. So they've got the green and the yellow body paint on the shorts. It's always good to see some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm sure they've both got a bag of dicks from the vial, giving away his concert candy.
They're not dicks, they're bloody microphones and shit, dude.
And here we go the other way with turtles, where instead of putting body paint on, we just make them out of paper cutout. So I think the vial is impressed with any of these turtles just because of the lack of accuracy. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work to get the lack of accuracy we're seeing in the costumes today. They lose points for having a box of pizza. I mean, that's just going one step too far.
No, but forgiveness is divine, dude. But you don't never pay full price for late pizza. We all know that. Love it.
So, and this is the best one of all. Let's just get like green glad bags and wrap ourselves up as turtles. It almost looks like when the Turtles did the Universal Monsters line of turtles, and that's the mummy version, except they're just meant to be turtles. And I love how, you know, the whole thing is just glad bag wraps, and then they've just put the appropriate color around them. So the vial has given all of these turtles his seal of approval because they were all mediocre.
Very, very cool. And they are turtles, not turtles. So so good on your cheese noodle. So you wonder if they took their masks off, as in like the headband, the bandanas, would they actually know who each person is? That'd be kind of funny. Be going, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Love it. Oh, here we go. Get some avenging action happening.
Well, no. Avengers disassemble. That is not the level of disaccuracy that the vial is used to. If the Avengers turn up at his back door, he is just going to expel them through his back door because they are not, they are just too good to be on the vial segment. So let's get rid of these. Let's see what the vial would really like us to see, what level of Avengers really he likes to turn up.
There we go.
Here we go. So I still think they're almost too good for the vial, but I mean, that Hulk's getting there. I mean, he, I don't know if he's the Hulk or a green screen person for doing special effects. The Iron Man there, it actually looks like that kid from the pack of Marlboros when he grows up. That's, you know, the cigarette head and the box of the box of cigarettes. That's what Iron Man looks like. And then someone's gone all the way with Captain America. They have just bought a Captain America t-shirt and wearing it. But I think that's still too good for the vial because it almost looks like the Thor put some effort into it. He even wrote some of the text onto the hammer, so it's more movie accurate. So that's still too good for the vial. Like half of them are not, but half of them are okay. So let's see what else the vial has got for us.
There we go.
Well, that's more like it. You know, when we don't have any clothes at all, let's just body paint the costumes onto us. And again, there you've got the Hulk, which is fantastic because he's so mad that the green paint is actually flaking off of him, and he is losing his Hulk power. That's the more pathetic kind of Thor we're looking for, where he's just wearing an ascot from Freddy from Scooby-Doo, and you've got an Iron Man that is just wearing a kid's mask. So that's the kind of level of mediocrity we're looking for cosplayers on the vial file.
The Captain America guy, you look at him and you can almost put a thought bubble up here and just says, I'd rather be somewhere else. Yes, he's not looking very committed, is he? So, yeah.
Absolutely
very
true.
Cool. There was I like this one. Yeah, Michael said it's the Avengers stunt. Oh, sorry, the Avengers stunt double. So,
Yes.
I love it. Very, very cool. All right, we're moving right along. Here we go, keeping the superhero theme happening.
Yes, so the vial sent these through because this is the level of accuracy he wants. This is the best Hulk he has ever seen. Like the bucket head Hulk with the green cape. Like once you've seen that Hulk, you can never see another Hulk and think it is as good again. And then you've got the Wolverine there, which looks like some guy in a onesie. that has just pulled the whole thing together. So it's like half Wolverine, half banana. So they're the level of superhero cosplay he likes to see turning up on his doorstep on Halloween.
Now, you could probably check this with the earlier picture, but way over here, you got this dude taking a photograph of the back of the Hulk thing. So what is it with the deal of taking pictures of people's asses? What is it with these guys?
I don't know, but you see it a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, Rigo says, yeah, finds that very appealing. Oh, very good. Yes, yes, yes. Don't give up your day job, because we all know what that is.
Oh, here's a triple threat. Homer Simpson, Scooby-Poo, and Budweiser Optimus Prime. I think all of those, win awards and extra lollies at the Vile Mansion because all of them are pretty crap. You've got Homer there that looks like a stunned mullet. Again, if you're going to paint yourself yellow, at least go for the all-over cartoon look and not have it sort of half sweating off. Scooby-Doo, some poor kid's mum has made that. They probably wanted to be Scooby-Doo and to buy an official costume, and the mum's gone, do you know, it would be fun? Let's make the head with paper mache and we can do it ourselves. Yep, that means you can go trick-or-treating and teased by all your friends. And then you've got the Budweiser Optimus Prime. Obviously, the truck he was driving was the alcohol truck. And so he has put an Optimus Prime suit together out of old beer cartons. And the Vile really likes that because he likes beer and he likes crappy costumes. So they're three that go straight into the pool room, I think.
Speaking of pool rooms, I like this, Enrico. Yeah, the Homer Simpson should have been in the horror toy list. I tell you, that's really unappealing, isn't it? I mean, you walk down a dark alley like that with that head on, and I tell you what. Oh, Jeepers Creepers. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, Zombie Homer. I love it. And you know what? I didn't even guess that was Scooby-Doo in the middle. I thought, what the hell's that dude wearing? There you go. Yeah. Oh. Love it.
Here we go. So what's happened? The Vile, obviously being a Sith, likes Star Wars cosplay. So he saved a bunch of Star Wars cosplay for us for last, the best to last. This is not the one the Vile likes. This is just showing that there are some Star Wars cosplay out there. And there's quite a lot of it on Halloween, but he would ask Darren to get rid of that picture and replace it with a more appropriate one. He apologizes. He says Dags. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's this other person you're talking about? It's like, I'm looking around thinking, who's he talking about? So let's just rephrase that again. We run a live show, so I can't edit that part out. But what exactly you want from who?
We want to go to the next slide with the more appropriate Vile versions of cosplay from Star Wars.
Very good. There we go.
So there you go. Stormtrooper armor by SJ Trading, the finest replica Stormtrooper armor recommended by Soul Greg King. That is the level of accuracy that we come to expect from SJ Trading. The masks are much better than the one I got because they're actually solid. And then you've got like detail on the armor, like even if it's been drawn on by Sharpie. But that's a formidable squadron of stormtroopers. And then you've got a quite reasonable version of Darth Vader there. And I'm getting a message from the Vile. He absolutely hates how accurate that Darth Vader is. So he's going to send us a couple of slides of the more violated Darth Vaders, and this is the level of accuracy he would really like to see when we have Vaders and Sith Lords knock at his door for candy. So he sent the real Darth Vader there on the left, and then he sent the homemade one there on the right. And you can see the guy has obviously tried. He's got the breath mask. He's got the black bucket as the helmet. He's got some, I think it's one of those capes you get when you get your hair cut thrown around as Darth Vader's cape, and a couple of other things. And it looks like a red pole as a lightsaber. The Vile is just saying, do not put that much effort into it. That is too good to be on the Vile file. Let's go to his actual picks of the best Sith Lords that turned up tonight. Now, here we go. On the left there, you've got like a Darth Vader that's just a bucket with some drawing on and like a cardboard chest plate with a couple of black things thrown together. I don't know what the middle one is. The middle one almost looks like a body stocking that's been painted with Darth Vader, and then the guy is just wearing a cape around it. It kind of reminds me, there was a Blondie music clip, The Tide is High, where you had like a kind of Darth Vader alien, but it wasn't Darth Vader. But the best one of all, there's a sumo suit Darth Vader there where I guess it kind of is a bit too accurate for the vial, but the whole image of an inflatable Darth Vader walking around using his Sith powers amuses the vial to his evil core.
Well, the advantage is you don't know who any of these people are, so you can wear stuff like this and strut it with pride. What can we say, eh?
One of them could be the vial. No one knows who he is.
Exactly. Well, that's it. The vial just is. How
Yes.
good is that? Very, very cool. Hang on, I'm going to press it. Whoop, 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 whoop. There we go.
Okay, so here's some the more. What the hell were they thinking? You've got like Elvis Vader, which takes two franchises and mashes them together unsuccessfully, and then you've got Darth Vader's TIE Fighter there that's docking in the vial's garage, which I guess probably would seem a funny idea when you thought about it, but when you've worn it for about half an hour at a convention and you have no peripheral vision and you've bumped into people and you've knocked over stools, it's going to get old pretty quick. So even though that looks accurate, the vial likes the lack of thought that went into taking that to a convention.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, you'd be walking through doorways and before you know it, you'd be doing losing your solar panels very, very quickly. But we're left. Here we go. Now we got some good stuff.
So here we get to the end of the Vaders. The vial doesn't mind looking at the Vaders that are a bit more risque because he's sick and tired of everything he's violating being defective and bad looking. So his choice of Vaders is the guy on the left there in the leather harnesses. That might actually be the vial himself. Who can tell? I'm pretty sure the vial is quite a handsome man in person. And then you've got the pimp Vader in the middle with a couple of stormtroopers. And whoever said that there were no female stormtroopers, I guess they're wrong. And then you've got obviously a Darth Vader groupie on the other end there who has a bit of a bikini Vader look happening with the Darth Vader helmet on. So he actually likes when these type of Vader Sith Lords turn up to get candy on his doorstep.
I was waiting for you to say there could be the vial on the right-hand side. Where are you going with that?
Well, it could be. So the vial has said he would like to see some Wookiees and has ordered up some Wookiees. These are ones he does not want to see. They are too good and too accurate and a bit too appealing. He would like to see more of sort of that unshaven Wookiee. So let's look at the next slide. So there we go. They're the kind of level of Wookiees we like to see. Some guy who's just let himself go to be a Wookiee, or it looks almost like the costume is, I know, I'll go and roll around in the mud outside, and here I am, I'm Chewbacca. Chewie's Angels. Excellent. So again, either of those could be the vial. We don't know. It's getting to the end of the vial report, so he might be slipping in some of himself there. We'll have to check it down and see. What do you think of those Chewbaccas, Dags?
Oh, look, what can I say? Hey, I don't know what can I say. It kind of works for me. If you like hairy dudes, yeah, you can't go past that, can you? So I have no words. So maybe this is one occasion where not having my glasses on and it's all blurry is probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing.
Here we go. I like this one. Hang on, I've got to try and find my mouse. Yeah, the Chewie on the right has more hair in his chest than the real Chewie. Absolutely love it. So there you go. Very, very cool.
And here we go. It's like the vial loves it when the whole family gets together and none of them are any good. Although I've got to have sympathy for the young lady there who's dressed as Princess Leia. At least she tried to get close. Everyone else has done pretty bad. That is the worst Jabba the Hutt I have ever seen, the garbage bag. And the vial...
Hey, whoa. That's a Yoda, dude.
No, the Yoda's on the left.
Are you sure? That's the worst Jabba the Hutt I've ever seen.
That's what I said. But what I think is a genius, none of them cosplayed Han Solo. So the vial put Juan Solo on the end there.
Yes, in fact, funnily enough, somebody would argue that the rubbish bin actually is the most authentic looking of the lot.
Yes, but if you've got ones that bad, we can find worse, can't we?
Yeah, exactly right.
And there, the next slide we find worse. You've got an even worse R2-D2, an even worse C-3PO, a really, really bad Leia, and an R2 dildo on the end there. I don't know what they were thinking with that one, but you know, we had the family in the last slide who were bad, but we've just made them look good.
Now this is a contentious one. Rico said, "Yeah, it's R2 cosplaying the sequel trilogy." Oh, cult that! Oh dear, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Yeah, good stuff. Oh, speaking of Yoda.
And the Vial says he doesn't think these costumes are bad, but what he likes more than bad costume is the misery of children. So he was quite happy to see that parents were able to force Yoda onto this little child, and he obviously doesn't want to be there and doesn't want to wear it. And the parents still took a picture and put it on the internet anyway.
Yeah, he wanted to be Grogu instead, but yeah, at that point the character didn't exist. So there you go. Very, very cool. There we go. There's some jabbers for you.
So we slipped this in because this is a nice looking Jabba the Hutt to see what the Vial would respond. And he said he hates this. It looks too accurate. The Jabba is way too screen accurate. And the Leia as the slave girl is too good as well. So he immediately sent us back something to erase that from our memories for good. Duna the Hutt. And his, I guess, princess slave girl, and then on the left there we've got a rather erect-looking Jabba next to a young man who is his princess as well. So they're the level of Jabba the Hutt accurate that he really likes the accuracy of. I think using a brown Duna as Jabba the Hutt is genius.
Yeah, it's Jabba's long lost brother. you just look at that person and you go, "What the hell are you supposed to be dressed as?" And she goes, "Bo Shooter." Absolutely love it. Yeah, but yes, nothing like an erect Jabba to make you feel better in the afternoon. What do you reckon, eh?
Exactly. And here we have two vintage cosplay, and this is the Vial's favourite picture of all. The Ewok with one of the notorious bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, Patches the Happy Clown. He was the bounty hunter that found Han Solo and Chewie on Ord Mantell in a deleted scene. So he makes an appearance there with Wicket the Ewok, I think. And then the other side, we have like that level of homemade Stormtrooper and Darth Vader costume that SJ Trading can only be envious of.
Who knew that Darth Vader was British? Well, he's got yeah, there you go. It's part of the English government, maybe. You never know. So, yes, very, very
well,
cool.
the droids in the Death Star, one of them does have "Made in England" on the syringe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Which is the mind probe. Yep, exactly right.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Check this out.
And as we leave the Star Wars universe, it's a trap. You've got Admiral Akbar there, but a weird mashup Playboy Bunny version of one, and another Jabba the Hutt that has a rather suspicious-looking Chewbacca sitting there, just waiting for someone to come up and pose with them. You know, they're the type of people who sit there and wait for someone to come and pose, and then Jabba would probably just eat them, I think.
Totally agree. Nicely done, sir. All right, so we're moving on, are we?
We're moving on. We're moving away from the Star Wars universe, and
what's this?
Here we've got like our last lot of bad costumes for the Vial to assess. And let's go around from the top. We've got Dr. Watt there, as in what were they thinking when they did that? We've got another Bert and Ernie and a big bird and a little girl who's looking really, really unhappy to meet her childhood friends. We've got the unicorn there. I don't know how practical that is to walk around. And of course, our friend the Hulk from earlier. A piss poor robot that some parents have whacked together to put a kid in. An even worse Iron Man underneath that, and another really bad Big Bird. We've got a clone trooper helmet again that is the envy of SJ Trading, and we've also got Buzz Lightyear. But the one that's the most impressive of all is the Batman there. Now, I don't know if you remember in the 80s, it was trendy to get like the back of your head shaven and get the bat symbol shaved in the back of your head. But this guy's gone one step further and just got it shaved in his chest hair.
Oh, I'm trying to see where it was. Oh, yeah, down here. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's a bit tragic, isn't it, eh? So there you go.
Yes.
How'd you be waxing that? Bloody hell. So there you go. Very, very cool. So here we go.
So there we go. That was Halloween night from the Vile Villa. And we've got a bunch of cosplayers there that are about to be violated.
Absolutely. So there you go. So yes, makes you want to just go out trick or treating, doesn't it? Eh? So very, very, very cool there, Mr. Aaron. Well done, sir. So good stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's like the whole costume thing is such a big industry now and has been for such a long time. Even at Halloween, there in America, there are entire stores devoted to selling Halloween costumes. And you do wonder if any of those would have actually made it into the store that you can buy relatively cheap. So I reckon you could have put your Clone Trooper helmet on. Or you're not even the helmet. So what would you call it? A piece of shit, and wander around trick or treating with that. So how good is that, mate? Very, very cool.
Yeah. You could do that, and it would fit on. It fit in. The Vile would approve of most of the thing from Greg King's Stranger Things, actually, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very cool. Now, I think that actually brings us down to one of our next segments about haunted toys. Is that right?
Yep. So the last segment for the evening, we're going to look at some of the movies that had haunted toys and some of the stuff that's haunted for real or purportedly haunted for real. So if you're into horror movies and you like the toys and stuff based on them, this is the actual movies that have toys in, not so much the toys that are based on movies. So let's have a look at some of the haunted toys.
Here we go.
So now, I don't know if you remember this episode of The Twilight Zone. It's probably made more famous because it's what they based the Talking Krusty episode on. But this was Talkie Tina, and she was a little girl's toy, and the girl was dealing with an abusive father. And Talkie Tina was like a haunted doll that started saying things like, "I don't like you very much, and I'm going to kill you." And she did end up killing Telly Savalas by tripping him over after he tried to put her in the rubbish, and she turned up again. So they had this episode of The Twilight Zone, which is quite a good episode that still holds up. And then they did a parody of it on The Simpsons, which is one of the better Simpson parodies as well.
Yeah, the famous thing is, of course, you think it's a doll, it'd be easy to sort of damage and destroy. And he tries to stick it in a vice, and of course, the vice will only go so far, and it won't actually crush the head. So he tries to use a blowtorch, and the blowtorch keeps going out every time he puts it near the face of the toy. So yeah, it's really creepy stuff. Yeah, really good.
It is. So let's go to the next one. And it's kind of, I kind of almost thought this was a homage to the Twilight Zone episode. This is an episode of The X-Files called Chinga. And it was also about a creepy haunted doll. And it looked after the little girl and anything that the girl didn't like, or anyone who said anything nasty to the girl or the doll would sort of make something bad happen to. And it was quite a creepy episode. And it was interesting because it was an episode of The X-Files written by Stephen King. So Stephen King wrote this episode of The X-Files, and it was a horror one. And there was stuff in it, like you can see on the side, where someone's hair gets caught in the ice cream machine and someone's eyes get scratched out. Mulder ends up putting the doll in the microwave and microwaving Chinga, the doll, and that's how that one ends up. But it is a creepy episode of The X-Files, and if you have a phobia on creepy dolls, it is quite scary.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's always when the doll does things that no one else actually sees, except maybe like someone sees it do something, but it doesn't play up for everybody else. And when you see them breathing and their heads are turning and all sort of shit, it's like, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, chill fest. So yeah, totally agree. Very, very cool.
So one of the series that's built on sort of haunted or demonic dolls is the Puppet Master. And the Puppet Master was about a kindly puppet master who was killed by Nazis. And then his dolls came back to avenge him. And it was such a popular movie that there's about 10 sequels to it with all different puppets. But the main ones are there. You've got Blade, and you've got the Leechwell and Pinhead. You've got Torch. You've got, is it Tunneler, the one with the drill on his head? And what I like about this, every movie they add new dolls. So you've got Six Shot, which has like 6 arms with a gun in each arm. So each one of the franchise, I was close, there's 14. There you go. There's a couple for me to catch up on. each one of the franchise, they add more dolls and they have more, crazy ways of killing people and doing different things. So if you're into killer toys, that's quite a good franchise to take a look at.
Yeah, I have heard of it, but I've never actually seen it. So, once again, once toys come to life, it's like mannequins. Once mannequins start coming to life and moving, it's just as bad. So, but yeah, toys, never a good thing.
So this is one from my growing up, which absolutely terrified me. And it is one of those things where you don't see something can often be scarier than when you do. And that is the evil little Harlequin clown from Poltergeist. And one of the scariest things I remember growing up is the couple of pictures I've put on the panel on the right side there, where they show a shot of the Harlequin sitting on a chair in the corner of the room. And then they show a shot of the kid, and out of focus in the back, the chair now has no doll on it. And as a kid, they draw the tension out sort of as long as they can till, of course, it pops up and grabs the guy and everything. So for a lot of people, it was Carol Ann and her being in the TV were the scary things in Poltergeist. But for me, it was always the Harlequin doll. I thought that was really, really scary and really, really well done.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like clowns either, so it's a bit of a double whammy, actually. And because in the sequence there's a storm outside and they're like, the trees are moving and there's shadows moving everywhere and all the rest of it, and he's got bells on his head, so at one point you hear the bells jingling, and of course, what's the clown doing? So, it was a really, really good sequence, and very well done.
Yes. And now here's one, I don't know if you remember this, Dags.
Yep, absolutely.
This is a fantastic movie, Trilogy of Terror. We don't really get these movies as much anymore, but in the 70s and 80s, there was Tales of the Unexpected and all these different sort of movies that were 3 or 4 horror vinaigrettes in one movie. But the one that I always remember the most was the one with Zoni the fetish doll. And it's one of those warnings. If you ever get a box turn up and it has a freaky little doll in it, just seal the box back up again and put return to sender, because it's this African doll that gets sent back, and of course it's possessed by a devil, and of course as soon as you let it out of the box, it's going to be creeping around the house and trying to kill you and trying to possess you. And it has Karen Black in, who I haven't seen in much for a while. But she was one of the sort of bigger stars in the 70s, and I remember this being absolutely terrifying, again, because you didn't know where the doll was and you didn't know it was going to pop out. And it was so popular, they did the Trilogy of Terror 2, and it made a return.
Yeah, it was very interesting, because in this story there were 3 stories, and the first 2 were quite okay, but when they got to this one, it was like absolutely scared the shit out of you. Now, if you watch this today, it'd probably be quite comical, because the stop motion of the doll was probably very, very crude. But the fact that, grabs a kitchen knife and she's trying, as in the Karen Black's trying to sort of get rid of it and trying to protect herself, and this thing is just unstoppable. It made fantastic television, and everybody remembers it. If you saw Trilogy of Terror, you never remember the first 2 stories, but you remember this one. And
yes.
I totally agree with you. It was just, for its time, it was just magnificent. So, but you couldn't do like that sort of thing today. It wouldn't work. But
no, exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Now, the one about the possessed doll that we have to talk about a bit is Child's Play. And the interesting thing about Child's Play is everyone knows Chucky now and everyone knows what it's about. But the filmmakers were quite hesitant originally to let everyone know it was a good guy doll. And if you look at the 2 advanced posters for Child's Play, it doesn't have Chucky in them, because they were afraid if people knew Chucky was in it, they wouldn't go and see the movie, because they didn't want to see a movie about a cute kid's toy becoming possessed by a criminal and going on a murder rampage. So the Child's Play posters, the 2 big ones I've highlighted there, are quite strange, where you kind of see Chucky's eyes and you see a building, and then in the second one you see Chucky's arm, and you can tell it's going to be about a murderer, but you don't know it's about a doll. They kind of kept that secret. And of course after that, when it was a success, all the ones after that have Chucky on them, or they become more and more, I guess, what horror always seems to do is get sort of more comedy and away from the original until they reboot and harden it again. But the Chucky movies, there's been quite a few of them, and there's now a Chucky TV series, and there's been different versions of the doll. Chucky's had a bride, Chucky's had a son. Chucky gets around.
Well, there you go. But one thing that Chucky won't do is just chuck it in, is that right?
Yes. So if we go to the next one, here's some of the other members of Chucky's family, where you've got Tiffany and his son below, which was in Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. And then there's a little collectible there that I had to highlight because I found it and I hadn't seen it before, and it's a sort of a vinyl statue of Chucky bursting out of his good guy box with a knife. But you can kind of see from the first movie where he's cute, and the further he goes, the more slashed up and burnt and scarred he becomes, till I think the genius of the first movie is you've got like a good guy doll that is quite cute and it's a killer. When it's already got scars and looks evil already, it's kind of not that sort of juxtaposition where you're shocked by a children's doll on a murder rampage kind of thing.
Good point here from Rico. He actually looks more freaky and scary with his clean face than with the scarred face. And yeah, because probably the reason is because from a psychological level, when you see him with his clean face, he looks cute. And then, of course, when he's not being, because he's obviously not a good dude, so your brain is trying to say, how can something that looks so cute be so bad? Whereas when he's all scarred, he already looks bad. So maybe that's on a subconscious level the reason why the cute version is.
Sorry, Dags, I have to stop you there. Rico was actually talking about me, not Chucky.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, yeah, you can tell who's trying to suck up to the boss for to make sure he's got a job tomorrow. Is that right? Love it.
Okay, and the last one of the horror movie dolls that we're going to look at is one of the big ones from recently, and that's Annabelle from the Conjuring movies. And the interesting thing about this is based on a real doll that really is supposed to be possessed, and all the things that happen in the movie, at least the first one, not the other ones, eyewitness accounts of what happened with the doll. And what Hollywood tends to do, and I agree with what Chad was saying, I think it's actually creepier because the real Annabelle doll is a Raggedy Ann. And maybe they couldn't get the rights to do that in a movie, but Raggedy Ann isn't huge at the moment. I wouldn't have thought it would have taken too much. So they've actually changed it to a really scary looking doll. But I actually like the idea of just a normal household item is the thing that is really scary and possessed. And the story behind Annabelle is she was bought in a secondhand shop by two nurses. I think they were student nurses who worked odd times doing shifts while they were studying, and kind of brought the doll into the house as someone to sort of almost keep them company. So they would talk to the doll and dress the doll up and move it around. And then they kind of noticed that it was moving by itself and appearing in different places, and it would be by the door when they hadn't left it by the door. Then it started writing notes for them, which they swear wasn't anyone else, and it was just the doll. And then it drew on the roof and on the walls and stuff. So really, really crazy stuff. And I think that story is kind of portrayed as a backstory in The Conjuring, but I find it really amazing that that's based on a real story, and that doll is the real evil doll, and it's just a Raggedy Ann doll. That is in the Warrens Museum. And apparently, if you go in and mock that doll, bad things will happen to you. And the last person, I think, who mocked it said, "I'm not afraid of you. You're just a stupid doll," or something, and went outside and died in a car crash about 10 minutes later. So I don't know if you believe in that kind of thing, Dags. I don't. I think you're quite skeptical, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you someone who isn't, and that's good old Rico. He reckons he has one of those at home in his cupboard, and it's getting weird. So it's gone weird. So make of that what you will. So. Yes. No, it's not the doll in your cupboard, dude. It's actually just your reflection in the mirror, and that's gone weird. So you gotta love that. All right, so we're moving on from the dolls, and we're moving on to, I think, actual stories or something. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
It is. So because this is Halloween, I thought I would tell anyone who's still watching a couple of scary stories that have actually happened to me. And Chad's around, so he can testify that I'm not making any of this up, because I have worked with Chad for a while, and he has witnessed this firsthand too many times for it to be sort of coincidences, although I will let you judge yourself. I think, Dags, even you have seen stuff you've gone, now that is pretty weird, haven't you, when you've been working with me?
Yeah, well, weird and you kind of go hand in hand, so I can sort of understand that. So it's just part of the package. What can I say, eh? So, all right, let's get into it.
So one of the things, and I sound pretty crazy saying this, but one of the things that I have noticed, and it has happened for years and years and years now, is the radio, or what's playing on the radio, has sort of always synced up to what's happening physically around me. And now this, could be coincidence, but it's happened so many times and so often, so specifically, that there's got to be something to it. Now, I noticed it on this picture here. You can see there's some toys and some songs. I noticed it when I was working one day, and a customer came up and handed me a DeLorean. They were buying a DeLorean, and the customer said, "Oh, are you playing that music because I'm buying a DeLorean?" And I listened, and The Power of Love from Back to the Future was on. And I said, "Oh, no, it's just the radio. It was just the commercial radio." Now, later that same day, someone bought a Ghostbusters car. And as they came up to buy it, Ghostbusters started playing on the radio. And I thought, well, that's a coincidence. This is two people buying cars, and two songs related to the cars are playing on the radio. And then the third one that happened that day wasn't a customer buying anything. Shake Your Tail Feather by the Blues Brothers was playing on the radio. We have it on the 80s station. And one of the customers came up and said, "Oh, are you playing that because of us?" And I said, "Oh, no, why?" And they said, "Oh, look out the front." And we looked out the front of the shop, and the Bluesmobile was sitting there. And these were people who had the Bluesmobile that used to take it to the Valhalla to do the Blues Brothers screenings, and they were out the front of the shop. So from that point, like 3 in one day, still just a coincidence. But from that point, when it started happening, you started noticing it. Now, if it happened a couple more times, you'd go, "Oh, it's just a coincidence." But this happens literally all the time, and it still happens to this day. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to go through some of the radio stuff that's happened that is bizarre. Now, I told this story to a customer, and the customer kind of didn't believe it, and it is hard to believe. And they said facetiously to the radio, "So radio, if you really are playing with what's going on, tell me what I should buy in the shop next." And it didn't play anything specific. What came on was What You Need by In Excess. So the radio was saying, "What you need, I'll tell you what you need." And the customer said, "Oh, I've just got goosebumps," kind of thing, because the radio did actually do what I was saying it would do. And this isn't us playing silly games with Bluetooth or anything like this. This was just the 80s radio station. And it would get so bad that I could actually call what was coming up on the radio. And one of the chains of songs that happened, and it could only be specific to me, and this is why it was so weird, Cheap Wine by Cold Chisel came on. And that came on and played. And then the next song that came on was Billy Ocean, When the Going Gets Tough. And I turned around to Chad and I said, "Do you know what the radio is doing today? The radio is playing songs that when I was growing up, I got the lyrics wrong to." And I said, when I was growing up, I thought Cheap Wine and a 3-day growth was cheap wine. No, she whines like a feeding goat. That's when I was really young. Then I got a bit older and I thought it was cheap wine and an RDO. So I got it double wrong because it's cheap wine and a 3-day growth. And Billy Ocean was Go and Get Stuffed. So when I first heard it, I thought it was Go and Get Stuffed. And Chad said to me, "Okay, well, if the radio is playing songs that you get the lyrics wrong to, what is another song that you always got the lyric wrong to? And we'll see if the radio plays it next." And I said, "Oh, I used to think the Beatles' Ticket to Ride was Chicken to Ride, but it's not going to play that because it's an 80s station." So the other song, I thought Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's was Alex the Seal. So I said, that'll be my call for the next song. So do you know what the radio plays next? The Go-Go's, Alex the Seal. And Chad walked around that day going, "I don't like this. I don't want to play this radio anymore," because it wasn't Bluetooth or anything like that. It purely was just the 80s mix that was on. So this happened, and Chad can tell you, I'm just telling you the highlights. This happened in a run for weeks and weeks and weeks, where the radio would just play stuff. But it gets even more bizarre than that. So if we go to the next slide, the radio would actually start syncing up with what we were talking about. So Chad came into the shop and he had just seen Baby Driver, and he was giving me a review on Baby Driver. And the radio started playing Baby You Can Drive My Car by the Beatles. And the weirdest thing about this is this was the 80s station. So it was playing something outside the 80s because we were talking about it. And I think the DJ came on and said it was because License to Drive was from the 80s. So they're playing music from that. So that was really bizarre. But Chad got really freaked out and he was like, I'm sick of this. And we changed it off the radio, the 80s station, to another station called Buddha FM, which was chill out music. And so we're on Buddha FM that just plays chill out music, and Justice League came out. And again, I think it was either Chad or one of our customers saw it. I don't think Chad saw it at the cinema, so it was one of our customers, and started giving me a review and saying, you know, it was a really bad movie. The only thing I liked about it was Aquaman. I really loved Aquaman. He was really good. And as he's saying that, Underwater Love comes on. And Chad and I look at each other and go, it doesn't matter what station we are on. The radio is still narrating. Rod, who I have worked with, has witnessed this as well. I'm pretty sure he has, where like the radio has synced up with what's happening in day-to-day life, and I cannot explain it. But if that was all, it would be still a coincidence. But let's go, because it gets even worse. So often when you are bored in a collectible shop and you're putting toys together or you're doing a display, you start quoting stuff. And I was in the shop and Chad was putting a Jurassic Park display up, or I was putting a Jurassic Park display up. And so we were quoting from the movie to each other. And I'm pretty sure Chad said, "Clever girl," which is one of the quotes from the movie. And without a beat, a second later, the music changed and Kylie came on and she said, "Clever girl." And it went into "Did It Again" from the lyrics. And we looked at each other, and it was another one of those things where you just get goosebumps because something you have said is then echoed on the radio within seconds of you saying it. Sorry, and it was like the radio was trying to join in on our doing Jurassic Park quotes, which was quite weird. And again, Chad can verify that. That's all true. But it even gets weirder from there. So when I was setting up the new shop, there was a lot of time where I was in there just standing up thousands and thousands of action figures. And where we were at the new shop, I was playing a mix on YouTube. So I'd play, you know, everything could come up at random, but it'd be all of REM or it'd be all of Crowded House or one of the bands I really liked. And I put an entire cabinet together. So about, 2 or 3 hours work. And I was finishing off the cabinet, by putting these figures in the center from the Cat in the Hat in the middle of the cabinet. Now, off the top of your head, can you think of any songs that have the lyrics about the Cat in the Hat in them? Because if you asked me, I probably wouldn't have been able to. And one of the things that, you suffer for your art in a collectible store is when all the display you have done falls down. And I put those last figures in, and the last figure I was putting in was the Cat in the Hat. And I put the Cat in the Hat in the cabinet, and as I put it in, it fell over and it took out the entire level. So every single figure fell down with the Cat in the Hat in my hand. And as I put it down and it did that, the lyrics on the REM song were, "The Cat in the Hat came back and wreaked a lot of havoc." And I was like, oh my goodness, no matter where I go or what I do, the radio follows me and does this all the time. So this is one of those weird things. I don't know what does it, if it's quantum entanglement, if it's something supernatural, if it is just a really unbelievable level of coincidence. But you can come in and we can be talking about something and you can see it. And it's one of those really weird phenomenons where I can tell you this and you don't believe it. But I have told so many people in the shop, and within, a couple of minutes of me telling them, it has actually happened to them. And they're like, "Are you playing Bluetooth? Did you do this?" And we're like, no, this really, really does happen. So I don't know what it is, but that is something chalked up to, I can't explain that.
Yeah. Very, very good. Hang on, there's a couple of things here. I like this. It's because, what is it? I don't know what AR only has admin access to the World Simulator Code. So very, very cool. All right, we move on.
Okay, so yeah, that was just the REM. It was from a song called "The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight," but it was just one of those random things that came out and freaked me out. But if we go to the next one, I think we're going to be talking about something that happened to Rod while I was there. And that was to do with the He-Man vehicle Attack Track. Now, Attack Track is an electronic He-Man vehicle from the 80s. Most of them, they probably work. They might not. They're at that age where, it's about 50-50 chance. And we were selling an Attack Track to a customer, and we had a couple of them. And the customer wanted to check them all out to see which one worked and which one didn't. So Rod actually got the Attack Track down and a couple of C batteries, because they're the old C batteries, and he put it in the first Attack Track we had and turned it on, and nothing happened. So it was broken. It wasn't working. So he took the batteries out of the first one, put the first one back on the shelf where it came from. So the first one had no batteries in, took the second one, opened up the second one, put the batteries in the second one, turned the second one on, and the first one that we had taken the batteries off sprang to life and crawled across the shelf. And he turned the power off, the one with the batteries in, while he was holding, and the one with no batteries stopped when he turned the power off. So I don't know much about vintage toys and stuff, if the battery put a charge into it that lingered for like 30 seconds as we changed the battery over. But the coincidence of him turning the one with the battery on and the one that wasn't working worked, and then turning it off and the one that wasn't working stopped again with no batteries in, was pretty freaky. And, Rod's in the comments there, and he'll tell you that's absolutely true. It is another one of those really weird things that happened when we were working together once.
Very good.
Now, here's another strange one, which I was only witness to. And we would get lots of big deliveries through in the shop. And usually I was working by myself. So I would unpack everything and I'd put all the old packing back into the original boxes, and we'd have these huge boxes sitting by the front counter. Now, I would walk down the back of the shop and put them out into the courtyard when no one was around. And so one day they'd been sitting there for a while, and the shop had been pretty busy, and the boxes were built up. And so I took them down the shop out to the back when there was a moment and there was no one around. So there was no one in the shop. I walked halfway down the shop, got halfway down the shop, and the back door, which is latched and can't open by itself, slowly opened by itself. Not like a breeze opening it, but just methodically opened very slowly by itself. So I was carrying two boxes, and I would have had to put them down to go through the door, but the door had opened by itself. So I just walked through the door with the boxes, and I looked up and I said, "Thank you, shop." And the door slowly closed behind me again. So I put the boxes down in the courtyard. I came back to the door and tried it and pushed it and pulled it, and it would not open by itself. It's on like a catch, so it wasn't going to open by the wind. It wasn't a windy day or anything. So again, could be a weird coincidence, but the timing of it, and with me sort of speaking and the shop responding to when I speak, that was a very, very weird occurrence that happened to me. But I was alone when that happened, so I can't really prove it. The other thing that used to happen, and Chad can tell you this is true, we would come into the shop in the morning and toys had jumped off the shelf, but not the ones at the front. The ones like 2 layers behind had jumped off, but they hadn't taken the ones in front of it. Somehow they had jumped over 2 rows of toys and would be on the floor when we came in, and we have no idea how they managed to get over the ones in front without them knocking stuff open. But that would happen quite often, and we don't know how that worked. And it didn't set the alarms off either, which is quite strange too.
Daniel's figured it all out. Moneybag Sullivan, it's a glitch in the Matrix.
Absolutely, mate. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. Now, here is the last story of the evening. It's a little bit of a longer one, but this is absolutely true as well. I don't know if Chad witnessed all of this, but he certainly saw the fallout of some of it. But this is a bit of a long story, so let me give you some background. One of our customers, his name was Wayne. He was a lovely guy, and he collected horror memorabilia. And for 3 or 4 years, he would come into the shop once a week, and he would buy every single horror item that we had that he didn't have. And we knew him as Horror Wayne because he wasn't a horror. He just bought everything that was horror. And when you see a customer that regularly, you get to be quite good friends with them. And I found out that he had some interests that I found interesting. He was a bit of a ghost hunter and an investigator. And he was into a lot of the horror movies I was into. And he was always trying to get me to go out and investigate with him. But I don't have the time to do that kind of thing. But I did find it very interesting. And he'd come into the shop and he would play recordings that he had taken. They're called EVPs, which are electronic voice phenomenon, which is where you record something and you don't hear anything, and then when you play it back, you've caught a voice or something. And he said he went out to the old Larundel, which was a lunatic asylum or a home here, and he had recorded stuff, and he said, "Oh, listen to this." And he'd recorded stuff and he played it back to me, and you could hear quite clearly a really weird jewelry box playing, like when a girl opens up a jewelry box and you've got the ballerina. And he said, I was in 3 a.m. in the middle of deserted Larundel, and I was asking questions and I didn't hear anything. And, I get this on the playback. So it was quite weird. But if we go back to the slide, it was in 2012. There was a horror fest in Melbourne, and it's like Horror Fest 2012, a weekend down under in Melbourne. And they had a whole lot of horror things happening. And it was everything from, you could go and see horror movies and talk to horror fans, and there was horror cosplay. But they also had Ghostbuster, sort of real Ghostbuster investigation. So you could, buy equipment for detecting ghosts and all that kind of thing. And he came in after HorrorCon and he was all really excited. And he said, I've bought these laser grids that you can set up and you can see if anything breaks the grid. And I've bought this cameras that do all different spectrums, and I've brought this infrared and all of this kind of thing. But he said, and the best thing I've bought a haunted Ouija board. And the guy that sold it to me said it's haunted by a demon, and the last guy who had it died of a massive heart attack, and I'm going to investigate it and see if there's anything to it. So I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I wouldn't be doing anything like that. But anyway, he had that conversation with me, and then we went back to sort of buying and selling horror toys, and this happened for a couple of months. And then after a couple of months, he didn't come in anymore. And we rang him and he didn't answer, and he had a lay-by, which was a big lay-by, but he'd always come in and sort of buy a bunch of stuff and put another bunch of stuff on lay-by. So that wasn't too unusual. And he had a lay-by, and we called him after about 3 months, and the phone had gone dead. It had been disconnected, and we never saw Wayne again. So I never heard from him, could never contact him or anything like that. And then maybe a year later, the guy I worked with called me, and he was at Abbey's Auctions, which is an auction house here in Melbourne. And he started showing me, sending me pictures, and it was all of horror toys. And he said, oh, check this out. And I'm looking at them going, oh, this is an absolutely amazing horror collection. And he says, yeah, but look at them closely. And I look at them closely, and they have our shop price sticker on. And he said, this is Wayne's collection. So these are all the things that he had bought off of us for years and years and years. And they had turned up at an auction house, and the guy I worked with said, oh, it's a sad story. The auctioneer can't tell me much, but he says it's a deceased estate. So Wayne has passed away, which was quite sad to hear. And so what we did, we had the auction catalogue that had everything on, and we went through and itemized what we thought everything was worth and what we thought we would bid on everything. And the day of the auction came along, and we won, and there was quite a lot of toy collectors there, and probably half the stuff we bid on, we won. So it went for a reasonable price, reasonable enough for a shop to buy it, to resell. But during the middle of this auction, the auctioneer holds up this massive spooky Ouija board. And the guy I'm with who's doing the bidding, we hadn't said we would buy this, puts his hand up and bids on it, and no one else bids, and he wins. And I'm going, oh no, I'm not interested. Don't buy this thing. Don't buy this thing. And he's like, why? And then the auction's going, so we just forget about it. And the auction goes on till the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you go and settle up with what you've bought, and you put everything in the car, and you have to take it home by the end of the day. And I say to the guy I'm working with, I'm not touching that Ouija board, because Wayne told me he bought this Ouija board at a horror convention, and it was possessed by a demon, and that the guy that previously owned it had died of a massive heart attack. And the only thing the auctioneer could tell us about the owner who had sold this collection, or it was his deceased estate, was he had died of a massive heart attack. So the guy I was with said, I'm not touching it then. And I said, well, I'm not touching the thing. And we were with another guy, and he said, oh, you guys are idiots. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'll go put it in the car. So he picked it up, walked back to the car, slammed his hand in the car door, had to be rushed to hospital and have stitches and his hand bound up and everything like that. So he was like, I'm not touching that. I'm not doing anything with it ever again. And we took it back to the shop, and we have a couple of guys who we know that collect horror memorabilia. And we said, you know what? We'll just call one of those and say, we've got a massive horror collection. If you buy a few things, you're welcome to that for free. We don't want to sell it to you. So we called one of our friends, Ian, who is into all that kind of thing. He walks into the shop. He sees the Ouija board. He says, that thing has bad juju. I'm not coming back here until you get rid of it. And he walks out of the shop. So we are totally freaking out now, because we didn't say anything to him. He just walked in, saw everything we had, and we had a lot of horror stuff, and he goes, that thing's bad. So we took it out, and there was an all-purpose disposal, and we put it around the corner on the all-purpose disposal. In the meantime, Ian rang back and said, what's the deal with that? And we said, we've got rid of it. We've put it on all-purpose disposal. He said, you can't do that. That's like passing evil onto someone else. So we went back out to look for it, and it was gone. It had only been about 10 minutes, and it was gone. So I don't know if that was just weird coincidence and strange thing happened, but it's another one of those things that I can absolutely testify happened. It's a weird story and was very freaky. And when it was happening, there was lots of pins and needles and feeling freaked out. So you can see these movies about haunted toys and collectibles, but I can testify to you, working in the collectible industry for 30, 40 years, I have seen this stuff sort of happen for real. Maybe not to the point where you're seeing stuff flying around and supernatural things happen, but definitely some weird stuff, definitely some stuff that I can't explain. So thank you for sticking with us to the end this Halloween night and listening to my spooky stories. They are all true. If you want to come in and talk to me or Dags about any of this, we are here. I'm back at the shop just about every day, and Dags is there on Saturdays. Did you want to add anything, Dags? Do you believe it, or do you think it's all a load of rubbish?
Oh, I wouldn't say it was all a load of rubbish, but no, I've never experienced anything like that. So I tend to not focus on these things that much. But there are people who do believe it, and good on them, I guess. And there you go. So, but one thing I do believe, and this is actually really important, is that we will be back to our regular program on Wednesday night. So we've got some very, very exciting stuff coming up. And I echo Aaron's sentiments. Thank you, everyone who decided to join us this evening for a bit of Halloween goodness. So go out there, trick or treat, and slam down some chocolates and some candies, and have a whale of a time. Eat a pumpkin or two if you need to. Any final words you want to say, Mr. Aaron, before we wrap up?
Thanks for being with us on this spooky night. Hope you enjoyed everything, and hopefully we'll catch you in person or Wednesday night when we're doing our Doctor Who 70s special, part 1.
Oh, how exciting is that? Very, very, very cool. All right, we'll leave you to it, and we'll see you in a couple of days' time. Okay, bye for now.
Have a good night, guys.